All right, and we're now live. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 2. Hope you guys are enjoying the videos thus far. Today I have a very special guest with me. He has previously worked in the fields of electrical engineering, nuclear power, but he is now working as the president of the STEM Fellowship Organization, and he is the editor-in-chief for the STEM Fellowship Journal. So his name is Dr. Noukhovitch, and first and foremost, I just want to take the time to thank you, Dr. Noukhovitch, for being here.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for inviting. It is really an honor.
Amazing. So before we get started, I thought it would be worthwhile to briefly discuss what the STEM Fellowship Organization is. So the STEM Fellowship is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2015 by Dr. Noukhovitch himself. The program now runs at 20 different universities, and it offers students with the experience of experiential learning and being able to get mentored by different experts in the field. By doing this, students who participate in the STEM Fellowship are now given the skills to perform various forms of research, as well as improve their scientific writing. So Dr. Noukhovitch, we'll get into the interview now. Can you tell us a little bit about your role in this organization as the president, and also feel free to highlight any additional details about the STEM Fellowship, which I haven't already gone over.
STEM Fellowship is an interesting organization. It is not just the organization, it is a society, and it was designed as a society. When I launched it, when I started, I actually approached a few students and I said that there is the physics society, there is a society of chemists, there is a society of psychologists, but there is no society for digital learners. And it is, as for me, I personally believe that your generation is quite different from, of course, from my generation. By looking at me, you probably can say it right away. But even from your maybe even older brothers and sisters who could be 10 years older than you, you are digital natives, and the way you learn, the way you exchange information is totally different. And it's a long story, and I can talk about endless amount of time. I simply believe that whatever schooling you are offered is simply is not for you. You have different ways of accumulation knowledge. Like Society of Scientists, specialists, let's say in physics, they have their own common understanding of physics, and they have common language and ability to exchange the ideas. Likewise, it is with these digital learners, with you. And it's not the lingua of, let's say, chats or anything. I'm not really looking into this. You simply have a different ways of interpreting information. And that's why I thought that there is a need of society. So this was the beginning, and this is the core of STEM Fellowship. Based on this, STEM Fellowship develops various programs, like you said, mentorship, but it is not mentorship by, let's say, people like me mentoring students. No, it is peer mentorship. It is actually exchange of information. It is practically a live Reddit, where you young people are capable of exchanging and building ideas together. That is the core of STEM Fellowship.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It's a really good opportunity for a lot of students in our generation as well. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the responsibilities that you have specifically, and what a typical workday might look like for you?
So my day is starts and goes with me responding and interacting through these electronic platforms. I can tell you that I haven't physically met probably 90% of the STEM Fellowship executives, not speaking about members. And this is not something we see as disadvantage. we are a digital community, and my day starts with me going through the electronic communications, responding to them, reacting. My role, I'm responsible as the kind of top person. I'm responsible for finances and administration. But at the same time, the whole leadership of the programs is done by student executives. So that, and in this sense, my responsibilities are, I'm in the best position possible. I simply observe and I interact with people who run these programs. If I see I can contribute something, if I see I can be of help either with my industry, academic connections, or anything, I simply provide these connections. Or if I see that I can help as an editor. On the other hand, I'm heavily involved with the STEM Fellowship Journal, which is not only open access, which is already a big achievement. It is fully peer-reviewed and rated, so it is a full-size academic journal published by National Research Council. So I'm an editor of National Research Council, and as an editor of National Research Council, I facilitate student editors, and everything they do becomes a publication under the Canadian Science Publishing, the publisher of all the national biggest academic journals. So that is my responsibilities.
Okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. And look, once again, it sounds like it provides students with a lot of opportunities, which is great. And I think there's just a whole different bunch of things that you can do in general. So a quick question I had, you worked in the field of electrical engineering and nuclear power in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about those experiences prior to taking on your current role as the STEM Fellowship president, and what made you change your overall career path?
Well, I can tell you that in my career, I changed much. I changed in my career a number of times. So yes, by my first university degree, I'm electrical engineer, and then I will be honest, I got not exactly bored with electrical engineering. Maybe it sounds odd, but it's possible to get bored with engineering. It simply I came across, and it was something fascinating. You see, being a technical or engineering person all my kind of university years, I came across of the book How to Make Friends, and Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Achieve Success, I believe this was. And you have to understand that I'm coming from a totally different society. I was born and made. I am made in Soviet Union. So I have somewhere on my body there is a label made in USSR. And it is much more than simply a label. We were made differently. We were made to the society was set to create a new type of people. So we were made differently in sense of ambition, in sense of career expectations. So when I read this book, it was a mind changer for me. And being kind of designed to solve engineering problems, I first time saw a bigger picture. I saw that the world doesn't end with the engineering problems, that there are people and there are management, and there is a management, I'm not talking about people, management theory. I got so fascinated with all these. So I decided to add on top of my engineering degree, the knowledge, and do PhD in engineering, do PhD in management theory. And it was my first change in the career when I, after 10 years and successful advancement, I started as a plant engineer, and then I became a research engineer, and then I was a lead, and I practically was head of the research group. Well, group was close to 20 researchers. So I decided that forget about this nuclear generation. I love the management theory. I love how much you can get from the strategizing. And the engineering degree was extremely useful. It gave me the set of mind. It gave me the ability which graduates from the Faculty of Economics never had. They never had the scientific method I was built with. So I became a consultant. I started at institute, practically think tank, government think tank for the future of science, and consultant, and so on and so on. And that's how I came to Canada as a researcher. And here, another change happened. I was working as a researcher at the university, invited researcher, and as a side job, I was offered to consult Toronto District School Board of Education, actually to deal with the difficult students. And it was my first encounter with young people. And it was a game changer for me again, because I realized that these people are worth spending time. When you're consulting, let's say, corporate executives, they don't worth your time. Yes, they worth your money, but not your time. Yes, you're getting well paid, but nobody listens. Well, yes, they do listen to you, but not really. Everybody minds their own business, and it was this was how I kind of got into a totally different field, which led me to STEM fellowship.
Yeah,
it sounds crazy, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are currently in the process of considering different career paths, and there's also a lot of people who might be on a certain career path and they thought they would like it, but now they don't. In terms of giving advice to those kinds of people, so people who are considering a change in what they want to do for a living, as someone who has changed their career paths multiple times, what advice can you give to people who are trying to figure out what they really want to do and are in a position where they're not really sure what they want to do?
Well, I believe they've been dealing with guidance counselors all their life. And with all due respect with guidance counselors, I would like to give them an advice to not to listen to guidance counselors. I can tell you how I ended up in engineering. Only when I here already in Canada decided to work with students, at some point I realized that I need to. I was already teaching on the Ministry letter of permission, Ministry of Education letter of permission. I was already allowed into class, but to have a permanent permission to work with students, I had to have a bachelor degree of education. So I added bachelor degree of education on top of my PhD. And it was useful because during these 2 summers, which took me to do this, I found out that I am dyslexic. So I found the answer for all my struggles as a kid. When I was in school, I was punished for not being able to write essays, for getting a poor marks in language, and I was punished and punished again. And it was counseling. It was my teachers who were telling me that you are engineering type, that you have to go into engineering. I have no kind of regrets that I did. But who are they, or who are the teachers to tell you what kind of person you are? So I can tell you that when students are thinking what is the path for them, it's probably the best thing to do is simply to start going. If you start going in one direction, you have to be persistent. You start doing something, you have to excel. You are in this role, you excel to the max. And actually, this is how I end up in nuclear power, because I was among the top in my course. And if I wouldn't be the top in my course, I would probably get a better job. Unfortunately, in the system, I had a university education in. The university education was free, and being at the top of the class, I was practically refused to have a choice of my own after graduation. And I was sent where the country needed me most. And I was sent to work for nuclear power, which is not fun. I don't know how it is here, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is deputy mayor in Bruce County. And when I asked him how they're dealing with the pandemic, with the COVID-19, with the nuclear facility in Bruce Power, and he said they are ahead of everybody. They bring people and they keep people right there at the nuclear facility on the shift. And I remembered how I was working as an engineer, spending months on the nuclear station without permission to leave it. So it's, well, Canada is not Russia. And here you need epidemic to be locked at your workplace. But, well, you have to think sometimes which workplace is the best, which is not. So one thing I would definitely recommend to everybody, STEM. STEM is a way to learn how to think. You can go and do arts, and it will help you develop excellent abilities to express yourself. It will help you with communication skills, which are extremely important. But science, technology, engineering, it is the schooling of your brain. It is the kind of, it is culturing of your logic, which comes very handy down the road in your life. If you have these skills, and I have kind of my classmates in banking, I have my classmates, I mean university classmates, in arts, in practically every field. So engineering degree is not an impediment. It is actually a good start.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned earlier, when you have a job like this, you're able to impact other people as well, rather than just work in a corporation, which I think is a big thing. Can you tell me a little bit about the impact you've been able to have on students through the job that you're working in right now, and sort of compare that to the impact you were having when you were working in the field of engineering?
Well, with engineering, you're impacting nature. I don't know which one is more important. Yes, it is simply when you do things that it is a pleasure. It is really some kind of special feeling when you're accomplishing, when you're solving a complex engineering problem. It is some form of the artistic emotion. It's like seeing a piece of art. Not everybody can understand the art of engineering. You have to have a background knowledge to really appreciate it. But engineering, and then you start to understand that people. I can tell you that when one of my biggest motivators to start working with students was to teach students this appreciation of engineering pleasures or appreciation, because once you enjoy this feeling of accomplishment in your life, it is probably as addictive as maybe the biggest drugs, and maybe more addictive, because it is not a routine compared to drugs. It is not a repetition. It is, and I feel that by working with students, I'm passing to them these it's not passion for engineering, with people talking about passion for engineering. No, this is a passion uh, for the beauty of your solutions. I didn't switch from engineering really. I simply start working with students, passing them what I thought is most interesting.
Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting as well. And I feel like you can always integrate whatever degree you have when you start at the beginning, like when you're an undergrad or when you're doing a master's, and you can incorporate that into whatever job you do in the future. So looking at it now, when you're able to work with students, can you tell me a little bit about some of the really rewarding aspects of your current job, or what is the most rewarding aspect of the job that you're currently working?
I just said, you see, appreciation of the achievement. It is appreciation not only of your achievement. You can see the beauty in students' work, and that is probably as much as a kind of pleasure as your own achievement. So the talent to see and interact with talent, it is probably the biggest reward that you can have in your life. And that is what I think is good about STEM fellowship. I have no, let's say, career ambition with STEM fellowship. And I understand that students who are members of the organization, they are some of them in high school, and they have so much to go through. They are concerned about the exams. Then they are undergraduate students, and they are still concerned about the exams, but they start to be interested and concerned about the ideas. And then they are graduate students who are more concerned about the ideas and how the ideas are making through. And then they are, let's say, in industry or doing their PhD. And this is all about ideas and making these ideas work. And it is all about how to make um, your the, your thoughts to be beautiful, because Beautiful thought. It's impressive. It's convincing. It is. So that is what I think is really STEM Fellowship is about, and that's what I like to see in STEM Fellowship. It is not really organization where students earning their hours, community hours. So it is where they come with the concepts. Recently, one student came with the concept of the competition or challenge, interdisciplinary challenge, which is not chemistry, which is not physics, which is not math, which is actually everything together. Because he's saying, nobody cares about your math. Nobody cares about how much you're great in physics or your specific knowledge of physics formula. It is your problem solving. Everybody talks about problem solving, but nobody teaches problem solving. So let's create a challenge or practically a program. And he's the one, I don't know, he's a third-year university student. And I don't hear my colleague educators talking the same sense. I would be happy to see fellow educators to grab this idea and think about different subjects to be taught in school. Because the subjects which are taught in school and at the beginning of the university, it is 19th century, 18th century subjects, which don't exist.
Yeah, for sure. So shifting to the other end of the spectrum now, what do you feel is the most difficult aspect of your job?
The most difficult is rotation. And rotation means it's a pleasure to see. And actually, for instance, it is a constant process. People who you've been working with, let's say, for a year or 2 years, they are moving on. They are going into medical school, STEM Fellowship. Last year, it was 13 fellows who got into medical schools. So we have more medical school, I can't say, entrances or successful applications than some universities. You see, and succession, rotation, it is always difficult because the whole story of STEM Fellowship, the whole experience is very difficult to pass. Every individual comes with his or her ideas, interests, and approach. And that is what I find most challenging in the work. And probably most, it should be turned into most rewarding. Not yet.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so just one last question before we finish up. What advice would you give to someone who is trying to pursue a field of work that is similar to yours and a job that is sort of, once again, similar to the job that you're doing right now?
Well, first of all, I would maybe suggest to have something simpler. Maybe, you see, on my lifespan, I went through so many cataclysms. I went through so many changes. So I don't want to advise anybody so some of the changes, my career changes, were forced by circumstances. So I would advise anybody, first of all, to be intuitive, to listen to the circumstances. So not only money defines, but money is a big factor. Listen to how, let's say, where the trends goes, and take the opportunities. Life always presents opportunities. It's simply we have to be attentive to what is offered.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of factors to consider for sure. But yeah, thank you for summing it up. Anyways, that does conclude our interview today. So once again, big thank you to Dr. Noukhovitch for being here. We really appreciate your time towards the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time on the next episode.